Is there a way that you could invest in the real estate market and you wouldn't actually care whether the price of the asset goes up or not? And the answer is yes. Now, we recently had Chris Sledham on the Tom Storey Show podcast. Now, we have recorded over 75 podcast episodes now. If you haven't subscribed to that channel, make sure to do that because that channel is growing rapidly. We release new episodes every Sunday. And Chris came on the show, and I think this was one of our best episodes ever. And I've had lots of conversations with Chris over the years. In the last 20 minutes of this podcast episode, Chris breaks down this very simple yet boring formula for investing in real estate. And it's basically the thought process of understanding for yourself how much money do you need to retire and where are you going to get that money from. I think a lot of people that think about real estate think about, okay, buy an asset, hold it for a period of time. It's going to be worth way more, 20 years from now, and then sell it, cash out, and that's your retirement. But that thinking will only get you so far. I'm going to show you a clip from the podcast because Chris can explain it much better than me. But it's basically looking at real estate in a way that the equity pay down, getting it to be mortgage free is the number one thing. Of course, the rents could potentially go up over time, and the fact that the property could go up in value, that would be great, right? But what if it doesn't, right? What if the next 10, 20 years are not like the last 10, 20 years? Is it still a good idea to invest in real estate? Now, this advice is not for people that are trying to make a quick buck or want to sell something in the next 5 years. This is a 20-year hold. And it's basically how you can put yourself in a position if you buy several pieces of real estate, let them be paid off over a period of time, and then they turn into basically like monthly bank accounts for you that give you a check every single month, and it continues to grow. Now, this is not without sacrifice, and you're going to have to definitely change your lifestyle if you want to get to this position at some point. But this was advice that was given to me about 5 years ago, and I've taken it very, very seriously. And that's why when I make these YouTube videos, I'm pretty clear on the fact that I know there's going to be some pain in the market in the next 2 years. Anyone that says there isn't is lying or not looking at the numbers. I fully recognize that. But I'm thinking way past that, right? I'm going to find ways to keep all the real estate I own or buy more over the next 5 years because my vision's 20 years out. I'm looking 20 years down the road at what position I can put myself in without over leveraging myself right now in, the today. So I'm going to share this clip from the podcast. I want to make something very clear. This is 100% not financial advice. This is just the way Chris looks at the world. This is the way I have adapted to look at my real estate goals over a period of time. I hope you enjoy it, and I'd love to see your comments down below if you think this is a method that you could consider down the road. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the clip. Chris, we've gone out for lunch multiple times, and you always pull out a piece of blank paper and you show me a chart, and it changed my mindset on how I'm thinking really, really long term about myself and my investments in real estate. And I was just wondering if you could break that down, not to a real estate agent, but just to somebody listening to this that maybe owns their principal residence and is thinking of investing in the market, but there's lots of chatter out there that don't do it now, wait. But we're talking 30, 40 years from today. So just what is that thought process?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we touched on it a little bit today already, in the fact that, owning real estate over time is really
hard to argue that.
It's hard to argue.
Yeah.
Right. So the way we've always looked at it is, if you're looking to invest in residential real estate is what we like to, invest in. It's easy. People need housing. They don't always need office space, or they don't always need a retail, store or for businesses, but people need housing. So the way we look at it is that if you buy an investment property today, or you buy a home today, and even if it doesn't go up in value over time, you're generally buying it with a mortgage. And so if it's your own mortgage, you pay it down over time. So we'll call it a forced savings plan.
Okay.
Back to the fact that we're not great savers, but there it's forcing you to save. And every payment, from the very first payment, you're actually depositing in your account.
Right.
A portion of that payment. When rates are really low, it's a pretty significant number. It's a little less today on your first payment, but that's what happens. When you buy an investment property and you pay that first mortgage payment, or your tenant pays it for you, all of a sudden you are putting that deposit in your equity account. And if you look at that and you chart it over time, you'll see that the returns you get from that are massive. And really that's what the whole essence of investing in real estate is about, is you get healthy leverage, like healthy debt, first mortgage debt, because you can fix the term. You get the benefit of time. You have a if it's a tenant, you have the tenant is paying that mortgage down for you. And then let's imply some level of growth, right? Whether we know that the average is 6.8% in our marketplace, but imply, as I said, or be conservative, imply 3% or 5%. Right. And if you look at that over, and I do it over generally over a 20-year time horizon, the results will, it's, I think, Steve, to your point, it's like, it's hard to imagine that prices are going to be $3.6 million in 20 years from now or 40 years from now, whatever the timeline was that you did. And so sometimes it's hard to fully appreciate, but once you look at history and you look at and imply whatever number that you are comfortable with, it's an exciting result. And so again, it's not timing the market, it's time in the market, and it's, patience. And that's really how we've always viewed it. I would encourage anybody who's considering to educate themselves about what that looks like. I mean, both you guys are brilliant at numbers and study it. So anybody could reach out to any of you guys and say, hey, can you, draw that chart for me? Yeah. And you'll, I know you guys would be happy to do that. And that's what makes me passionate about it, right? That's really what makes me excited about real estate. I mean, of course, we're of course you guys are happy, you're excited about it. It's your business. It's your real estate agents. I mean, that's what you do. You have to be happy about it. Well, if you do take a step back, and I'm not suggesting it's the right time for everybody to buy real estate right now, and maybe it isn't the right time for you to buy real estate, but it's always the right time to be educated about it so that you can make the right decision. And I think I would encourage everybody to view real estate over a longer time frame, to think about what's happening. So on day one, my mortgage is, I don't know, pick whatever is relevant to your marketplace, $500,000, right? And what we've looked at over the years is that even if on day one you buy an investment property and there's a small shortfall you have to, feed it a little bit every month at the start because the income doesn't match up with the expenses right away. By year 20, if you're diligent and you don't need to spend any of that income along the way, you can get that property paid for. Some people might be, 20 years. Oh my God, that's a long time. Mm-hmm. Well, look at that return, and also look and at those numbers and imply 3% growth.
But growth isn't even what you're most looking at here.
Correct.
It's paying off the mortgage and the money coming out.
Right. So let's say in 20 years you've paid off a $500,000 mortgage, right? And so now you've saved. Let's say the house goes up zero.
Sure.
It's worth X today, and it's worth 600 today, and it's worth 600 then, and we had a $500,000 mortgage, and now we have $600,000 in our savings of equity in that property, and we still have a tenant in there. Now the money's not going to a mortgage; it's going to you, the investor, for eternity, right? Like for the rest of the ownership of that property.
And I'm trying to tell even just end homeowners to get there, or if you're just getting your principal residence, because once you retire and maybe you have a pension, most people don't now, and you get a CPP, good luck paying your rent with CPP right now. It's not even going to cover, like if two renters are at home now and they both have full CPP, what is it, $1,200 a month or something like that?
I'm not sure exactly.
$2,400 a month. What does that get you? And do you want to eat this month? Right? Doesn't happen. So just to get to that spot where I want to be owning my own residence free and clear 25, 30 years from now is what I think the goal for everyone should be.
Absolutely. Because and then you imply a little bit of, whatever number you want, conservatively, growth in that value. And boy, does it really knock your socks off. Right?
And the rent goes up a little bit over 20 years, doesn't it?
I mean, right now, even if it's, it's going to go up 2, 3, 4% a year, 5% maybe in some years. You're going to have, so that's the cool thing is it's generally indexed to inflation, right? So a dollar is worth a dollar today as it is in 20 years from now when you're talking about rents as well. There's all these little nuances of investing in residential real estate that really, once you get into it and you start to appreciate these little nuances, it's not super glamorous. Like it's not fancy. Like we didn't buy, Apple at $9 a share in 1997 or whatever, and right. But it's slow and steady, and the results are absolutely incredible.
But even that example you just gave, if I bought Apple in 1997, right? This wasn't if I bought Apple last year.
No,
right? It is a long-term.
It's long-term
Long-term game.
And then the thought to it is, okay, right now, whoever's listening to this, whatever age they are, plus 20 years from now, whether that is a retirement age, a not retirement age, anything, just how much money is coming in. And the conversation that you had brought to me was like, well, what do you need to retire? What would it cost you to live on a monthly basis? And probably whatever the number is actually more than that, right?
Yeah.
So how many of those properties, because the thing that I always got stuck on was like, well, if these things are paying off, my net worth is just going up. That helps me sleep at night, and I can just sell 3 of them when I'm older and cash out. And yeah, sure, maybe at that point, if it's a lot of money in today's environment, you could put it into a GIC and be pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
But your whole thing is like, never sell. Who cares that it's paid off? Not that who cares, but like that's just what's going to happen naturally. The rent prices are what the rent prices are. And let's say, property A, these are above your principal residence, right? Property A is bringing in $3,200 a month cash flow.
Yeah.
Property B is bringing in $2,800 a month. And you keep going and you add them up. You go like, well, if I need $15,000 a month for my retirement or whatever that number is, how many of these do I need and how long is this going to take? And it's a long-term, potentially boring solution that will put you in an amazing position.
Yeah.
But you got to start somewhere, I guess.
You do. And look, get one.
Yeah.
Start with one. And I think you'll, and it's not without sacrifice, and it's not without hard work, and without, and it's not easy. But you do, if you're able to figure out a way to either use equity in existing property in a safe manner, and I say that very carefully, in a very safe manner, to take a bit of equity out of a principal residence safely, which means low leverage. Don't put yourself out there. Or, if you're in a position where your household can build up some savings over a period of time and find that first investment property, you won't regret it. And it's tough. And I'm not saying you've got to run out and buy something tomorrow. There are opportunities out there right now for certain. If you've got capital available to make some good investment decisions, when would you rather be buying? February of 2022 or November of 2023? Right? I mean, that's...
So the objection right now for a lot of people is, I want to wait and see. And that's always an objection.
Of course.
Right? Going to wait and see. So if you're thinking about that and somebody listening to you right now is like, you know what, I do want to start my 20-year, 30-year plan, but I want to wait and see. What is the wait? My response
is it going to matter in 20 years?
My response is always, I appreciate wait and see. That's a fear statement. It's just saying I'm unsure of right now, which we're always unsure of right now. But then I tell them to get a metric, like what is your measure of success? Because you can wait and see forever. So if you're an investor that's looking right now, and I'm going to ask you about your market in Toronto, what would you be looking for? What are you waiting and seeing for if I was trying to become an investor now?
I think some people are, and maybe a lot of people right now are uncertain about what the short-term values are going to look like, right? So I think that's causing people to wait and see. The challenge with waiting and seeing, and we touched on it a little bit on one example of waiting and seeing, when rates do drop, prices pop.
Prices might go up.
Right. So now you've missed that lift. Right? My dad, taught me this when I was young, that the sooner you get into ownership of real estate, the sooner it pays for itself. And that's the challenge of waiting. Now, again, there's a lot of factors for every individual that might be listening, to this and saying, well, how does that relate to me? First of all, you've got to figure it. Yeah, is the timing right for it? It might not be, as I said, but if you're making a decision to wait and see, to your point, what are you waiting for? Make sure it's for the right reasons for you and your scenario. But in our case in Toronto right now, and there's great buying opportunities, that great in the sense for the long term. I can't tell you what they're going to do in the next 6 to 12 months exactly. Oh yeah, here's the chart. Like,
Right.
we're not. It's not something there's no asset class out there that you can chart perfectly. But I will say that based on historical values, where we are today, there are some great opportunities in the market. You're going to get some, if you're out there looking around with somebody who knows the market really well, then you're going to find a great opportunity. And 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when the property's well paid for and prices have started to climb again, you're going to look back and go, whoa. But if you wake up 5 years from now, still waiting,
Yeah.
if you do the math on that amortization of what you would have paid off in that time period and imply 1%, 2%, 3%, 5% growth, whatever you want to imply in that time period, the worst thing you could do is wake up 5 years from now and go, oh gosh, I should have, because no time is it going to feel like, oh, this is a guarantee. Like, there's no moment in time that buying real estate, you're taking on debt that I'm aware of that you're ever going to feel like, oh yeah, this is a walk in the park. Even today, after 60, 70 years of our family investing in real estate, when we go buy an asset today, we're still like, yeah, are we sure? Yeah, are we sure? You still get that feeling, because with all that I know and that we've experienced, and the ups and the downs and the stress and all the things that have come along, we're human, right? You have those moments, you have those feelings of uncertainty, but every single time we've purchased something, we look back and go, boy, wish we had bought more.